Dick Slater wasn't a wrestler. He was a bar fight that just kept walking into the ring. If Terry Funk was wild and Harley Race was tough, Slater was the guy who'd fist fight you because you held the door open for him. Known for stiff punches, a bullet wound he laughed off, and a face that looked like it never healed from 1983. Slater carried the aura of a man permanently 3 beers deep and 3 seconds from snapping. He wasn't trying to be your friend backstage, and the feeling was mutual. These weren't storylines. These were shoot fights, brawls, betrayals, and enough heat to grill ribs on a cold Georgia morning. The following 5 weren't just opponents. They were names Slater either genuinely hated or sent flying into furniture for real. If you thought Slater wrestled rough, wait till you hear how he handled bar tabs and jealousy. Let's roll. Before Sting was the icon, he was just a dude with a flat top and the bad luck of flirting, accidentally or not, with Dick Slater's girlfriend, Dark Journey. Now, this wasn't a TV angle. This was real life. And in real life, Slater didn't do passive-aggressive. He did aggressive-aggressive, the kind of guy who treated jealousy like a full-contact sport. Slater heard whispers Sting might have been getting cozy with Journey. So what did he do? He cornered Sting backstage and reportedly shoved his head in a toilet. A literal toilet, like a high school bully, but with a perm and a license to carry a steel chair. The Ultimate Warrior, Sting's tag partner at the time, jumped in, probably thinking this was a tag match. Slater started swinging anyway. Dick Murdoch had to break it up, and when he's the voice of reason, you're basically living in a CTE fever dream. Tracy Smothers later confirmed it all went down, and Slater never denied it, didn't even act sorry, because Dick Slater never apologized. He just walked away like someone asked him to move his truck. There's no record of Sting firing back, probably because he was smart. You don't play chicken with a guy who once shrugged off a gunshot like a mosquito bite. Slater thought Sting was getting too close to his valet, so he baptized him in a toilet. Nothing says hands off like giving your coworker a swirl in front of the urinal cakes. Backstage, it was a statement. In Slater's world, the matches might have been scripted, but the warnings, those were shoot. Most wrestling bar stories end with a punch. This one ends with a gunshot. Slater was out drinking with Wahoo McDaniel, Tommy Rich, and a few other guys in Atlanta. Spirits were high. Then Slater, in classic Slater fashion, mouthed off, allegedly about Tommy Rich's wife. And, in a moment that tells you everything about 1980s wrestling, Wahoo pulled out a handgun and fired. The bullet grazed Slater's leg. Now, most people, when they get shot, call it a night. Maybe the week. Not Slater. He walked it off, told people it was just a scratch, then went around joking that a sniper took him out. Imagine shrugging off a gun wound like it was a stubbed toe, then hitting the ring 3 weeks later like you just overslept. There was no locker room investigation, no HR complaint, not even a real apology. Because everyone involved was so soaked in beer and ego, they probably just chalked it up to boys being boys with firearms. The beef itself, never squashed, never escalated. It just existed. 2 dangerous men, 1 bullet, and a leg that lived to tell the tale. Only in wrestling can you insult a guy's wife, get shot in the leg, and show up to work like it was a twisted team-building exercise. And Slater? He didn't even sell it. Man took a bullet and still no sold it harder than 2000's Triple H. If you owe a guy money, you pay him back. If you don't, and that guy is Bob Roop, he might hit you with a blackjack in a bar. That's what happened to Slater. Allegedly. Roop walked up behind him and whacked him in the skull, accusing him of stiffing alone. Bad idea, because Slater didn't go down, he went forward. He tackled Roop and slammed him into a soda machine so hard the thing stopped working. This wasn't a wrestling match. This was 2 grown men turning a bar into a demolition derby over $50 and bruised pride. Slater later told the story with a grin like a guy remembering his favorite fishing trip, not a full contact felony. According to him, Roop got the worst of it, walking away dazed and dripping. And while Slater might have left with a welt, he didn't lose the fight, or the refund. There was no locker room fallout, no charges, just another bar ruined and 2 veterans who never roomed together again. In other professions, this ends in court. In wrestling, you just don't split a hotel anymore. Roop came to collect a loan and ended up buying himself a concussion from a vending machine. That's Dick Slater. You could hit him in the head, but you better hope he's not thirsty when he gets up. Slater didn't hate Ric Flair the way you hate a guy who stole your car. It was more like the hate you reserve for a coworker who always gets the promotion while you're still chasing per diem. In 1985, Slater and Bob Orton Jr. were booked in Mid-Atlantic as bounty hunters hired by Gary Hart to take out Ric Flair. The gimmick? Beat him down so bad he can't defend his title. Real old-school heel stuff. Except Slater took it a little too literally. They pile-drove Flair on TV, stuffed a bag over his head like it was a hostage video, and then stood over him like henchmen in a low-budget crime film. The problem? It didn't look fake. In fact, it looked very real. The fans freaked out. The station got complaints. The network got nervous. And Slater? He got canned. The angle was so hot, they pulled the plug before it melted the studio. Flair never spoke out publicly, but insiders say he wasn't thrilled. Slater had crossed the line, not in the ring, but on TV, in front of people who weren't in on the joke. In a world where blood was normal, Slater made it look like a snuff film. Slater didn't sell the angle, he sold terror. And when the network started sweating, guess who got tossed out the back door like expired catering? It wasn't personal, but it definitely felt like someone wanted Flair gone, and Slater just happened to bring a bag and a grudge. The real kicker? Slater didn't think he did anything wrong. From his point of view, he was just doing his job better than anyone else. Make it look real? He made it look too real. That was the problem. And in Slater's world, that wasn't a mistake. That was a compliment. The bag, the pile driver, the chaos? That wasn't crossing the line. That was the line. Everyone else just didn't have the guts to step over it. When you step on Dick Slater's toes, you're getting hit. When you mess with his valet, you're basically asking to get buried face first in a ditch. And Jake the Snake Roberts nearly did. Back in Mid-South, Roberts was a rising sadist with a snake and a DDT. Slater was paired with Dark Journey, the same woman at the center of his earlier Sting beef. During their feud, Roberts DDT'd her on TV. Not teased it, not faked it. He planted her like a tent peg. It got massive heat from the crowd, but Slater didn't think it was heat. He thought it was disrespect. There were whispers backstage that Slater hadn't approved the spot, and even if he did, that didn't mean he was okay with watching the woman he was involved with take a head spike from a guy with a history of snakes and drugs. After that episode aired, the feud never escalated. In fact, it cooled off fast. So fast that some insiders figured it was shut down to keep Slater from breaking Jake's ribs backstage. The tension was real, the respect wasn't, and Roberts, who had no problem burning bridges, never mentioned Slater much again. That silence speaks volumes. Roberts dropped a snake and a DDT. Slater dropped a grudge and possibly a phone call to someone who knew how to find your hotel room key. This wasn't a long-running war. It was a sudden spark, one that could have lit the whole locker room on fire if bookers didn't kill it early. When Slater's real life bled into the gimmick, people learned to back off before he made things permanent. Some guys play tough. This one was tough, and not in the gym strength kind of way. In the walks it off after a gunshot kind of way. He didn't need a feud to throw hands, he just needed a reason. And if you couldn't give him one, he'd invent one mid-promo, mid-bar tab, or mid-pile driver. He didn't care if you were green, seasoned, famous, or bulletproof. If you crossed a line, real or imagined, you got dragged across it face first, sometimes through a vending machine, sometimes through a locker room door. He didn't burn bridges, he collapsed them like condemned buildings. No titles needed, no legacy package required. His reputation was built off real receipts and the kind of stories people whisper about when the room gets quiet. He wasn't a legend because of what he won. He was a legend because nobody ever wanted to lose to him in real life. If you're still here, you're either into shoot fights or just love a good barroom brainbuster. Either way, drop a like, hit subscribe, and leave a comment like you're filing a workers' comp claim at 3 a.m. More locker room horror stories coming. Just try not to end up in one.